Hello and welcome back to Planet Coaster, where we will be working on an actual coaster this episode. Not just a station, but something people can actually ride and plop down in their park without having to worrying about designing the layout themselves. So this is actually something really basic. It's actually kind of compact and small, so you can see kind of what I'm planning here is two kind of almost mirroring drops across from each other, one a little bit taller than the other, and at that point you kind of criss and cross around a little bit on the lower side of the coaster, and then at that point you kind of return back to the station. So it's something really small and simple, and that's just one to keep it compact. I'm not really great at coaster design, and for me this is kind of about the size that I would prefer to do going forward a little bit. You know, it was a little bit quicker for me to design this than regular. There is an element that we do change some things here. So noticing there was a little bit more speed than I anticipated, we can change some of the heights, some of the drops, make them a little bit more sharp, try and get a wider bank here, maybe even a little bit higher that hugs the framework of the first lift hill. And I think that's a pretty cool looking design. When we cross back over, what I end up wanting to do is just go back to the station here initially. Now that is just way too short. Eventually what I do though is I add an additional piece to this and to work it out, and it's also one of the most smooth coasters that I've ever made. And for a wooden coaster that might be a little weird for some people, because wooden coasters are kind of more known for their sharp side to side kind of banks. This one is a little bit more smooth simply because that's just kind of how I would prefer a coaster to ride. You know, it's not like there's any specific rule that says you can't do this. So at this point the coaster is laid out. I added a little kind of short spiral section there, kind of encircling the first drop. That way they kind of interact with the track a little bit more. And now we get to design the coaster station. And the coaster station is a Nordic themed kind of building here, though it does look maybe even a little Asian inspired, maybe slightly Japanese with some of the final elements here. And it's a little troublesome building this close to the track itself. Had to compromise a little bit on the building shape on the backside, just so that we can kind of get a smooth fit along the track area and not interfere and actually get the thing built. We're gonna have a nice kind of wrap around porch area with these pillars that I'm gonna have to kind of design and build up as we go through the build process. Now, a lot of my buildings are generally work in progresses from the moment they start until they're actually done. I don't really have much of an end goal in mind beyond just the theme. Now, I think that's a problem for me specifically. I like to more or less kind of work off the building itself rather than try and conform to a plan that I established kind of beforehand, and that can be fine. I will say that it is a little bit more time consuming than what it should be. So just a fair warning, it is a way to build these, but I would suggest, if you can, try and come up there with as much of a plan as possible, and that will hopefully help you guys build a little bit faster than I do in the long run. We built up the bases of the pillar. We also added this fence as a upper trim. Nordic buildings kind of have this effect over their roof lines. They like to have these wooden elements. Now, we could have gotten a little bit more fancy, some more fluted things, but part count, of course, is a problem. I'm not doing full coaster builds to the point where they're so well thought out and they look so gorgeous that they can't be uploaded to the workshop by themselves. I don't really want to upload things as a park. So that's what we try and avoid here on this channel, at least, for the time being. Now what we're doing is making some nice wooden frameworks, and we are adding some of the icing over the base wood, and then back kind of behind it we can put some white elements just to make the dark wood kind of pop out and contrast away from the dark wood that is just the base building shape itself. Of course, some wooden motifs up top. A lot of Nordic buildings, they have kind of roof trim along the spine, and then they can do some decorative elements kind of at the edges of the spines of the roof, and those do look pretty cool in the long run. What I had to do around the entrance and exit was actually bulk it up a little bit and do some wooden little frameworks around, just so that the entrance and exit actually didn't really fit the building shape very well, and so we actually had to change how that shape worked. And because we can't put the columns in a regular spot, we have to come up with a different element to try and at least tie that to the building some way. So I figured some sort of wooden lattice would make sense there. Simple paths out to the front left and front right, and simple little wooden balusters, just lining those so people know when they place the blueprint down kind of where the staircases go, and it's a little bit of a guide to help them going forward. At this point, first floor details very much the same as the upper floor. Wood on top of wood. You can mix in some colors. I put in some red here just to pop in a little bit of something that isn't just brown and black. I would think this build should probably have some more colors in the long run. I think that would maybe make it look a little bit better, but it is kind of a basic concept, something that hopefully you guys can use that's generic enough in your parks, and then add your touch of detailing over it to make it match the rest of the scenery. And I think that's a good thing to at least shoot for here initially. The first floor, now luckily we are doing one side of the detailing, and then we can simply copy it over to the opposite side, and that is a big time saver when you're doing this kind of stuff. I noticed some of the pillars and things clipping into the interior of the structure, so I figured I might as well try and make them make a little bit of sense, make it look like they might be supporting some cross members that are just big logs above the coaster station. Some windows, not a whole lot on this structure. It's mainly just wood, paneling, plaster, and decor kind of around the area. Now I do like the icing for this simple wooden lattice because it makes the white behind it really stand out, and it adds a quick amount of detail without having to use too many parts, as that is pretty much our main enemy almost every time we make a structure. Now the left and right side, actually the doorway is going to have to be rotated, so that's what I'm doing here. I have to kind of disassemble it, move the door over to the correct side, and then the window onto the correct side. That way it will fit over here, and you'll see it takes a little bit of lining up just so the track is going to fit through the doorway without causing errors in placement. And at this point we'll go ahead and just copy over the first floor on the kind of alongside across, and make sure that's all lined up and holding up the wood piece. Make sure these are nice and flush after a little while. It does take a little bit of a double checking nature when you're doing this to make sure everything is still lining up after you copy and paste. Now the exterior beyond the coaster station, we're just doing some rocks, some shrubs, light trees, because I don't quite know what's all in everyone's park, so I'm just adding a little bit of nature to it just to make it look a little bit more grounded, and to pop in some green colors, because green colors I think look really nice next to kind of these darker elements. I don't want to cover up a lot of the wooden track, because that's actually the main kind of attraction to a wooden coaster. The track itself is kind of this very artful piece. In fact, the station covers up half of it, which is a little bit of a problem, I'm sure, to some people, because you're not seeing the full ride from a distance. But at least you can see the main lift hill and the main drop, because that gives you your height. And also, I think that balances out the station a little bit. If I wanted to make the coaster bigger, I might have put the station more in a central location and then put the other hill to the right of it, so that the station kind of sits in between these two tall peaks, and that might look cool as well. A little bit of shrubbery and stuff on the interior. Just, you know, this is a space where they need to maintain and keep clean, and so we're gonna keep this light. Anyways, that's it for the speed build today. Let's go ahead and check it out in real time and also ride this thing and see what you guys think. Alright, so here we are. This is the nice little Nordic wooden roller coaster. I hope you guys enjoyed the speed build section, and you can kind of see how all this is made. We got light details, as I said, in terms of greenery and things. I wanted to try and keep this as light as possible and as generic as possible for you guys to use in your own parks. The wooden roller coasters, to me, sound so cool. I love the lift hill sounds. I love the rickety wood sounds as this thing kind of zips around. And it is an overall relatively successful build. In fact, if you can compare it to probably our last build that we did kind of in this theme. It's elvish, but the elves do borrow a lot of elements from this type of structure. Where is it? Yeah, so if you look at the Elven Temple next to it here, you can see how similar this is. It's just this one has a lot more dense kind of greenery elements around that, and a little bit more specific. And this one here looks a little bit more Nordic and plain, but it's supposed to kind of look like that. Now, the reason I say this also looks a little bit Asian inspired, possibly a little bit Japanese, is just maybe the white kind of walls behind the dark wooden elements. I think that's a very kind of Asian style here. And maybe also the roof line. If it wasn't for these little upper decorative pieces, it might look totally Japanese. In fact, if we did maybe the opposite and did these corners here, you could really make it Japanese, rework the tiling a little bit, make it look a little bit more like that coned ceramic roof that they have. And you could definitely mix the theme up if that's something you guys want to do on your own. But let's go ahead and, I think, ride this thing. Now, I'm not going to talk during it. It's so quick that it's kind of surprising. So let's hop into the camera. We'll tie the seat down and go for a little bit of a ride. And that's pretty much it. It's a relatively small, short, mini little coaster for you guys to enjoy. It is not too many parts. I don't think we're quite close to 2,000. We're at 1,208. It's relatively cheap as well. If you guys want to use this in your own park, the link to the workshop item is in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. If you guys enjoy Planet Coaster, feel free to leave a like so I know to make more. Leave a comment down below on what you want to see next, added, changed, things like that. And I will see you all in the next episode.